What's up, guys? Welcome to Archer Amplified. I'm Archer. I'll be here every Monday talking to you about my job as a full-time musician and all the hurdles that come along with that. You'll hear about shows, songwriting, and everything that goes on behind the curtain. If you're curious about when I'm playing my shows, make sure you go to archermusicxx.com to check out my show schedule. Also, give me a follow on Instagram and Facebook. Just search Archer Music XX. So in the last episode, I told you about my time in Huckleberry Blue and graduating from a community college to continue on to UNC Greensboro. In this episode, I'm going to talk about why I didn't major in music and how that actually helped me so much. When I tell people that I went to college, they always ask me, what did you major in? And they are always surprised to find out that it wasn't music. I did not major in music. I'm a full-time musician that did not major in music. I majored in communications and minored in entrepreneurship. So, why did I choose that? Well, before starting at UNCG, I honestly had no clue what I wanted to major in. When I was at the community college, I had taken a communications class, and I loved my teacher, and she was actually the one that told me, hey, you can actually major in this stuff. And I was like, what? Because I loved it. I loved learning about communications and how people worked and all those things. So I also didn't choose music because I wanted to go to UNC Greensboro because it was close to where I was, and I wanted to commute. I didn't want to move out. So the music school portion of UNCG was heavily classical, and that's really not me. I'm not a classical. I'll listen to classical music if I'm writing, planning out these podcasts, or if I need something to chill to, I'll listen to, or piano instrumentals, or some classical chill things, but I don't want to study it. I have a lot of respect for the genre, but I don't want to study it. So that's why I didn't choose music there. And I also saw that I could add a minor, and I didn't know what I wanted. I mean, with all of my gen eds out of the way, I could do a major and a minor. So I asked Mr. Dillon, my mentor from high school. He said business is always a good idea because the music industry is first and foremost a business. It made sense. And the example that he gave me was people with no talent get farther if they understand the business. People with talent won't get as far if they don't do the business part. So that was really an eye-opener. My mom has always done financial things, and my dad is the creative one. So I got most of the creative side, but I've always been interested in the business side. So it really helped me out, and it made sense. So I picked my minor, entrepreneurship, and yeah. And, honestly, studying communications and entrepreneurship helped me out, honestly, more than I give it credit for. So communications taught me how to read body language and eyes. So it taught me where someone is standing, where they're looking, or if their feet are facing away from you, it kind of indicates that they want to leave the conversation. Also, it really put a lot of emphasis on eye contact, and as a musician or as an artist on stage, it really helps to have eye contact because, in the bands that I've been in, I've noticed, when I give more eye contact versus when I don't. And so usually when I make eye contact with people on stage, I usually get more of a response from them, an applause or a smile, or they may even come up to me after the show, anything like that. And so then there's that connection that really shows that you are a person and not just someone up on stage. So that's really cool. Also, another thing that I learned in communications is if they are mirroring your body language, like if you're having a conversation with someone and they're mirroring your body language, it's usually a pretty good sign that they're trying to establish a rapport with you. So let's say you're sitting at a table and you have you put your hand up on the table and rest it, or you rest your face on your hand or something like that, or you cross your arms. And if the other person mirrors that, it means that they are paying attention to you, they are fully into this conversation, they are really not distracted by other things, and they're subconsciously establishing a rapport with you. Another thing that I learned about in communications is wording things when conversing with others. And a lot of communications, like the classes and stuff, is, yes, some of it's geared towards the theory of communications, but also how to communicate in a business setting, because a lot of the people that are in communications go on to work in larger businesses or become a manager of some bigger business. So they have to be able to know how to communicate effectively with the people above them, below them, around them, coworkers and other business owners if they're working with another business, stuff like that. So one of the things that was talked about is saying, "You make me feel." You don't need to say that. You do not need to say, "You make me feel," because the other person is not making you feel, they're not making you feel what you are feeling. Your own brain, yourself, is making you feel what you are feeling. It is how you react. Saying, "You make me feel," comes across as an accusation. Therefore, the person you are talking to is more likely to become defensive, and then it's an argument and a very tense situation. And so to avoid that, what was stressed is to say, "I feel," or "when you say this, I feel." It's less accusing. It's not so much attacking the other person. It's just saying, "When you say this, I feel this way." It's "I feel," not "you make me feel," because no one's making you feel anything. It's only you. Overall, through all of that, I learned how to read a crowd a lot better, how to communicate with venue owners, and how to keep good eye contact, because as a shy person, eye contact really wasn't something that I did very often because I was always really nervous. Like, making eye contact and keeping it can be difficult. And as humans, we naturally will break eye contact, tend to look away in a conversation. But keeping good eye contact is, a sign of confidence. And I don't mean like staring somebody down when you're talking, because that's weird. But just having and keeping good eye contact to show them that you're paying attention. And confidence wasn't really something that I had so much of when I was younger. So therefore, less eye contact. That major really helped me to learn to like I said, communicate with venue owners and also people in the crowd, because if people, will come up to me and, conversate, then I need to be able to have an engaging conversation back, because I need to be a personable artist, because people like personable people. So there's that. And minoring in entrepreneurship. Okay. Entrepreneurship helped me a lot more in the business part. Obviously, because it's a business, but communications helped in the people part, and entrepreneurship helped me in the business part. So stuff like contracts, negotiating, business plans, how to focus on a target market, budgeting and what it's used for, the types of competitors, all of those things. And while I don't have to make a business plan for the music that I'm doing, I do have to figure out how to negotiate. I also have to work with contracts. As a musician, I want to focus on a certain target market with my music, because people who are 75 plus usually don't listen to Halsey or anything like that, if you understand what I'm saying. It's kind of like people who are 75 years old don't go looking for a skateboard for themselves to ride. It's about a target marker. You're trying to focus specifically on in an age group, an age bracket, or something like that that will benefit you in what you're doing, and so you cater to that market. So negotiating is another really big thing because I have to, you know, get people to want to pay me to play music for a few hours. And, I have to I have to think about, well, what is their budget? What are they capable of doing? What is a reasonable price that I can give to them that I think I am worth? And then they in turn also think that I am worth, because honestly, as a musician, playing at restaurants, at bars, and at venues, wherever I'm playing, my main goal for the venue is honestly to keep drinks flowing. It is not to be there for the people to, yeah, I'm there for people to listen to, but the whole main point is for me to drive alcohol sales. I have to keep people there drinking and spending their money. So if I don't do a good job of that, or I don't bring a good amount of people, then, it's hard negotiating, getting myself back into that venue going forward. So a lot of people think that, musicians are hired because, they're good, or musicians are hired because, people want to listen to live music, but really it's just a business deal. And for, businesses get musicians to get people to sit longer and order more drinks. That's just what it is. And you have to figure out a price point that your venue that you're trying to get into will be more likely to pay for, if that makes sense. So honestly, entrepreneurship really focused and emphasized organization and keeping track of all that you have done so that you can always refer to it down the road. Because if you do something and something works really well, in that moment, in that specific situation, it worked so well. And if you ever come to a future situation that is even slightly similar, you can refer back to that first thing that happened. And you can say, oh, well, this worked really well here. Let's take this idea from the past and change a few things to make it better for this situation that's about to happen here. For example, let's say that I'm playing in an area that I've been playing at for a few months now. I only have one venue in this area, and I'm having another venue, it may be a new venue that I'm contacting, or they could be contacting me. I have to figure out how can I go about getting them to want me to play a show at their venue. What can I provide to them? And I have to figure out, well, this other venue in this same area pays me, X amount. This is how this area usually works. And these people have heard my name before. Let's say that they've even been to the venue that I was playing at before, and that's how they found out about me. And then I can go based off of that information. So I usually write down every show, what city, how much I'm paid, how tips usually run, and if, I have a food tab or not. And I will take that information, let's say from the first venue that I was already playing at, and use it to help myself with this new venue that I'm trying to play at. And I can, base it off of, okay, well, this venue in the same area paid me, X amount. I can probably get something similar. I can probably bank on, depending on the day and the weather, of course, what tips would run. I can look at their Facebook page and get a feel for the vibe that they get or that they have and use, like I said, the prior information from the prior venue to help me figure out a base point for this new venue that I'm trying to play at, if that makes sense. So it's really all about organizing everything, keeping track of everything, and using it for down the road. And oh my gosh, planning. Entrepreneurship, planning. uh, planning, I'm already a planner. And it just really emphasized how much planning you have to do as a musician. If you're trying to book shows, 3 and 4 months out, you really have to plan, because when I was starting being a full-time solo artist, I didn't really choose where I was playing in the area wise, because I wasn't as well known, I guess. I wasn't as prominent as a solo artist. So in the beginning, I did a whole lot of driving back and forth. Like I would drive to Morehead City and then drive home the next day because I played in Raleigh the next day. Or I would drive to North Myrtle Beach and then I would drive to Jacksonville, North Carolina, because I had a show in North Carolina. Whereas now, since I am able to do these things, I've been a solo artist for a good amount of time now, I can actually plan to play a few shows in the same area at one time. So let's say that I have, a show in Cedar Point and then Morehead City and then Swansboro. And then those are my shows for the week. And great, I don't have to drive 15 million hours just to try and get to all these shows. I can just plan them all in the same area and it works out. And now, since I'm living in Nashville, there's even more planning, and I will plan a year out. Like in October of 2020, I started booking for 2021. So I will literally get out a calendar or use the calendar app on my phone, sit down and say, okay, I'm going to be in North Carolina for 3 weeks. These are the weeks, and then I'm going to go back to Nashville for 5. And so I go ahead and plan out my whole year and start booking for my whole year. And there's a lot of organization that goes with that and planning that goes with that. And a lot of that is what entrepreneurship taught me, along with being a natural planner. I honestly never thought when I was younger that I would be planning out my whole year in the future. Nobody ever said like, hey, you could be planning for your whole year. And I'm sure that eventually that it could get to be more planning. So I'll probably look at this podcast years from now and be like, wow, I didn't know I would be planning 2 years ahead, 3 years ahead, because that's what artists do. They plan out their albums, they plan out their EPs, they plan out their singles, they plan out how their career is going to go. So, entrepreneurship, along with my sense of natural planning, helped me get to be able to plan out a whole year in advance and be able to position shows in a way that would make sense. That is also something that entrepreneurship taught me, was it's really good to plan out things because it helps you get a very clear idea of what you want to do and exactly how you want to do it. Because if you, in music or in really anything, it really helps to think something all the way through, all of the steps from point A to point B. And how do you get from point A to point B? And for me, that kind of differentiates a dream versus a goal. A dream is something you want to do, but a goal is what you take steps to work towards. So planning, I really feel like, and determination, of course, are the main differences there. But those are the things that I learned in entrepreneurship. So at the end of my 2 years at UNCG, which I was only there for 2 years, I had some electives and was able to take a couple of music classes that were more tailored to what I did and what I wanted to do. There was not a full program on that stuff at UNCG. There were only a few classes here and there. So, do you remember my mentor, Mr. Dillon, that was, taught me stuff in high school and told me to take business. Okay, well, entrepreneurship. Okay, well, he also, the year I graduated from my high school, he went to UNC Greensboro to teach. And, UNC Greensboro and the community college, GTCC, there in Greensboro, and, or in High Point, I guess. And the same year I graduated, he went there, and I took a songwriting class under him, and that was really fun. He taught us it's okay to suck. Just keep writing. You will get better. You just have to keep doing it. You can't get better at something that you never practice at. You know what I'm saying? So, he also taught some of the business parts of being a songwriter, like royalties and percentages of ownership and things that happen usually when you co-write with somebody and stuff like that. So it was very, very informative, and also he stressed to kind of make a routine of writing. There is one thing that I remember I was watching an Ed Sheeran documentary while I was taking his class. I mean, it wasn't during class, but it was outside of class. But I was watching a documentary or an interview or something like that about Ed Sheeran, and he said that writing songs and writing good songs is kind of like turning on a sink that's connected to well water. And at first, it's a little muddy, and it's a little dirty, and it's a little rough. But as you keep the water running, it becomes clear and it becomes better. And he said that it's the same principle with songwriting. So you have to write bad songs to get the good out. And that also like opened my eyes to, well, yeah, just need to write more, and then you'll get the good songs versus the muddy songs. Yeah, so that wasn't the only music class that I took. I also took Entrepreneurship in the Performing Arts with Dr. Wallace. He taught us the importance of an EPK, or an electronic press kit, and the best way to lay that out, how to tailor contracts for your shows, and how to work with venues to get yourself booked. And one of the projects that we had to book ourselves. We had a group of about 3 or 4 people, and we had to book ourselves at a venue and make an event online and market it and get people to come and everything like that. And, it was really fun. I'd always known that I needed an EPK, but I didn't really know how to make it look like it needed to look until I was in Dr. Wallace's class. So that has really helped me, and I still use an EPK to get shows and all those things. So the last class that I took, the last music class that I took, was Music Production 101. And we worked with the 3 main DAWs, or digital audio workstations. So that means Logic Pro, Audacity, and Ableton. Those were the 3 that we worked with. So with Logic Pro, we focused on using the pre-made sounds in the software to write a song with different tracks in it. In Audacity, that was more manipulating sounds, like adding tremolo effects, taking vocals out of songs, changing the key, using samples, reversing bits of the song, and samples are like somebody talking or the sound of a car engine, and then putting it into the song and making it part of the song. So we worked with that a good amount, and then we worked with Ableton, which was creating the sounds based off of sound waves with a synthesizer. And they're the original synthesizers that are like big and bulky, and you turn things with your fingers and move wires and stuff, but this was like a digital version of that. So you could still move wires and turn knobs, with your mouse to change the sound waves and change it to, from the square wave to, whatever else. And at the end of that class, we had to create a song using one or all three of the DAWs. So it was really cool. And during that last year, I learned a lot with the electives that I had, and had also used music for many of my projects and papers as I could within communications and entrepreneurship. Like, I would always, try to, if we had to make we had to create a business in entrepreneurship one time, and I would always try to implement music in it in some way. Or if we had to write a paper about something in communications, it was usually about a music company or how people go about doing things in the music industry and how they, communicate like that. So yeah, it was a lot. I don't want to go back to college, but it did help me. It did help me. At that point, it had been a few years since I'd been in a band, because the last band I was in Huckleberry Blue, other than filling in with, Jake's band or a few other bands. And at the end, I was about to graduate. I was a few months out, and I got a call about being in a band called Big Time, and they were a beach music band. Up next on Archer Amplified, I'll be telling you about how I became part of the beach music community, what I learned from them, and the awesome experiences I had along the way. And make sure you go listen to my song Colors. It's on Apple Music, Spotify, all those streaming services, and there's also a lyric video on YouTube, and all of that is on my website. So just go to archermusicxx.com or go to Facebook and Instagram and just search Archer Music XX. Thanks for listening.